And I was really excited and I joined it, and it's really fun that we get to meet every Saturday and have a fun-filled session with my age group, and it's really nice. So yeah.
I'm sure that's amazing. So, to everyone who's watching us, as you can see, we have brought the adults' perspective and also the juniors. This is a combination of ideas we are bringing in together. So, I think these kind of platforms are unique in Sri Lanka or in the world to bring out the perspectives of two different ages and two different generations. It's good to know the opinions and ideas we put in together as one. Also, now getting into today's book. Before we get into the detail, I would like to ask you, what is your overall thought or the opinion about this book, I Am Malala? Ranmali?
My overall thought or my perspective on the book is the book tells you about a girl who found her purpose on earth at a very young age. I watched a video where Usain Bolt said, God put me on earth to run, and that's what I'm going to do. God put Malala on this earth to fight for education for girls, and she does not limit it to girls. She says education for every child. So what happens when you identify your purpose in life at a very young age is that you are able to change the world. She's the youngest to win the Nobel Prize. Yes, she had a very traumatic experience while trying to fight and while continuing this campaign. But for me, overall, apart from her life and her story, for me, I see the book as this one person who identified the purpose in life, and we all have a purpose in life. And for us, some of us, we will be in our 40s when we identified. For Malala, she would have been 12. So when you do identify the purpose, you master that purpose and you live with that purpose. And when you do, this is what it is, someone like Malala.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Coming into Prajna, what are your overall thoughts and opinions about this book, I Am Malala?
So my overall thoughts and opinions on this book, I would just like to say it in one word, that is, I feel inspired after reading this book, because to see what Malala has done when she was in my age, I don't even think I've done half of that. And I really felt inspiring when I read that book, and I felt kind of brave and had the courage to speak out. And there's no person in this world who I've met who I've never told about Malala. Like everywhere I go, if there's some conversation, I somehow try to bring her up, even in school. So that's how deep the book has gotten into me and the teachings it has given me.
Thank you. And I think that's why you are here to talk about that book as well. So let's see how it goes. So going into details, now I would like to start from Prajna as well. Let's talk about the birth of Malala, the childhood. Let's get into a small introduction about Malala.
Okay. So Malala Yousafzai was born in Swat Valley in Mingora, that's in Pakistan. So that place is really beautiful. Like the explanation she gives in the book is marvelous. You actually feel like you really go there, and it's just so nice. And she was the eldest child in her family, and she had two brothers. They are Atal and Kushal. So she had two brothers, and she was the eldest, and they really looked up to her. And so Malala was this normal girl living with her family in Swat Valley, Mingora. That time there was like so many issues in her environment, so many barriers. She could not do everything she wanted to do, and so in the book there were so many beautiful pictures of Malala with her family and her picnic she had when she was in her childhood. It's really nice to see all those memories that she has put in the book. And so Yeah, Malala was really simple. She was so simple, and yeah, so she had a really rough childhood with the things going on in her environment, but she tried her level best to keep herself happy. So that's the childhood Malala had
All
when she
right.
was.
Okay. So with that simple girls, sorry.
Can I say something?
Yes, yes, sure.
And there's also one drawing Malala incorporates in the book. It's a really beautiful drawing, and it says, and she writes a caption underneath that this drawing shows humanity. Like she has a picture of all the religion signs and two handshakes, and this picture shows humanity, and that really touched my heart. And I think all of us should follow that in our day-to-day lives as well. And she drew that picture when she was 12 years old, so she's my age. And I would have never even thought of doing that in this age, but she has, so that's a totally big inspiration for me.
All right. But you also know there are girls of your age that would look at you today and be like, I want to be like Prajna as well. Because not everybody gets this chance. So it takes one to know one, Prajna. All right. So along with that childhood, now talking about Malala's childhood, such a simple girl with rough times in life. Ranmali, what do you think, or what would you say is the turning point for Malala was?
I would say many actually. It's like a culmination of lots of events. Prajna is right. She was a simple girl, but the environment was complex. It was not the best for a child to grow up in. There was turmoil, there was political unrest, and a lot that was going on at that point. So, in the book, she mentions that one turning point is the assassination of Benasir Bhutto. At that point, when she was assassinated, that's when she decided she wants to be a politician. I think she mentions that in the book. And there were a number of other events, injustice that took place in Swat Valley. Then the Taliban announcing that girls were banned from school and education. That's another turning point. Then she also, with the father's assistance, used to speak up, do a lot of interviews, and then she won a national award. That was another turning point. And from there, another turning point would be when she maintained a diary for a BBC program under a pseudonym. And that told the life of a girl in Swat Valley under the presence of Taliban, and the life of a girl who was struggling to educate and go to school, the struggles they were facing because of the closing and the bombings. So there were many turning points, and but the world saw the shooting when the Taliban shot her. That's where she came to limelight. But before that, from the age of maybe 9 onwards, she was an activist, and she's been facing lots of situations, and these turning points have sort of shaped her and brought her to this particular situation that really changed not only her life but the entire world, and the world, how they looked at Taliban, how they looked at Pakistan, how they looked at this girl. So these events in general are what I feel are the turning points, and that opportunity to go to Birmingham, if I'm not mistaken, Prajna, I hope I'm right with where she went to, and where she was able to rehabilitate and get her family down and start her life there. The turning point was, I think, the biggest turning point, looking at all of these situations, would be when Taliban failed to kill her,
Yeah.
because that's when she said, weakness, fear died, and power and strength was born. So, you know what they say, throw me to the wolves, but I'm going to return leading the pack. That's what happened. So that's the biggest turning point. But I would uh, say there were many more before that as well, but not as significant as what took place in, I think, October 2012.
Right. Okay. So along with that, if I take the same question to Prajna, do you agree with Ranmali, or what for you? What was the turning point that took your mind of?
Yeah, I do agree with Auntie Ranmali, but for me, there's two more turning points that I would like to incorporate. That was her speaking at the UN. It really was a turning point for her, and also the Nobel Peace Prize because she was the youngest to win it. So I think those were one of the biggest turning points she had in her life.
Absolutely,
Or,
absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
I agree. I agree. I think I touched on what took place way before these two significant events, but
Yeah,
Prajna's
her life
right.
growing up, where it went,
Yes,
sort of.
yes. I
Yeah.
think Prajna's right. That I think those two created a bigger impact, a more positive impact.
Yeah. All right. Along with this, now Prajna, tell us about what now today's session. We are talking to the people who have probably read, who haven't read the book. So let's focus on what she mainly focused throughout her life. If you can just give us a small brief about what was Malala mainly focusing on, what was she fighting for?
Malala was mainly fighting for education for everyone, big, small. She was focusing on that. So that's what she was mainly fighting throughout her childhood. Even now, she's still fighting for it, and she has achieved a lot. And we have to thank her in a way for fighting for it, because that's how we got all what we're getting today.
Great. Okay. So sweet. Just in your words, which everyone can understand. I think that's what we want when we communicate a message. We want the simplest language possible so that all ages can understand. So coming into Ranmali, let's talk about who really played the most significant role in Malala's life.
Interesting question, Ashni. For me, the positive role was played by her father because in the book and in a TED Talk session, he says, in my part of the world, most people are known by their sons. And I am one of the few lucky fathers known by his daughter. I mean, for me, if my father said this, I would, start crying because
Sure.
he really believed in this girl. He
Mhm.
was very progressive, open-minded. He was very liberal in his thinking, and he questions every single thing. So, from a
Mhm.
very young age, he taught Malala to question and also refer to the holy book of Quran. Whatever people say, he would say that's not Islam. That's not my Islam. So she knew that we have to go in any religion, be it Christianity, be it Buddhism, we have that holy booklet, the book. It could be the Tripitaka, it could be the Bible, it could be the Quran.
Yeah.
So no one was able to brainwash Malala because she had her father always questioning, asking her to think, and believe 100%, 300% in this daughter. He was proud of this girl. He called him Johnny, my life. When in fact, in that part of the world, being born a daughter was an issue in some families.
Mhm.
He's a great speaker, and you know where this skill comes from.
Mhm.
So he sort of may have sort of not maybe gently nudged her to this path that she is now in. And I remember in the book, after she was shot, the father asked the mother, is this my fault? Because he knew that the role he played was so big. But to have that one parent believe in you, just look at how far you can go. The
Yeah.
other thing, on a negative influence would be Taliban. I mean, if not for them, and if not for them restricting girls from educating themselves, she wouldn't have come up or found or found this purpose in life. Not the best of influences to have, but
Yeah.
did influence in a negative way. But I would say the greatest influence is the father, and you can just see how proud he is each time she speaks, and
Yeah.
to have that, and had to have that person in your life, I think is amazing.
I think we can all personally relate coming out of the book as well. We all know how it can really feel to an individual. So I think that that role have played a pretty significant part of Malala's life. Coming to Prajna, do you agree with Ranmali about this most significant role, or according to you, who really played the most significant role in Malala's life?
Yes, I do agree with Auntie Anmali because he did play a big role, like in Malala's life. Her father did. He was the main pillar of strength for her, and so did Malala's family. They were also her mom, her two brothers. They were also really supportive to Malala. So yeah, I would say her father was the main person behind the scene.
All right. So coming into again, Prajna, I would like to get a small introduction about her education background, the school she went to. Would you like to give a brief about that as well before we go into the political aspect or the environment she grew up? Let's start with her education, where she got her education.
So she got her education from her father because her father owned a school in Swat Valley, and there was a girls' school and a boys' school. So she went to the girls' school, and she was one of the best students in that school, the toppers all the time. She was the best, and she really loved her school so much, and the education given, she really treasured it a lot, more than even I don't think I've treasured education a lot, but she really did, and I've learned that from her. So she really treasured that education a lot, and it has helped her so much until now. And yeah, so she went to a very simple school, her father's school. She didn't go to big schools, or she didn't have a lot of education, but she did grab what she got out of her education.
All right, so that's the education background of Malala. Now, I would like to switch the topic into the political background that she grew up in. I would like to direct that question to Ranmali. How do you describe the political environment she grew up in?
So from the start, yes, Prajna said the story was about this simple girl, Malala. When you read the book, you realize she gives this vast description of the political climate, starting from the US, the CIA, the ISIS, or the Taliban. Her knowledge in the general political aspect of the political climate of the country is amazing. For like Prajna said, at the age of 12, I wouldn't have known anything about what was going around in my country, but her knowledge is amazing. So the political climate, Ashni and Prajna, was unstable. Democracy was not stable at that point. There was change in regiments, and each regiment would take different sides. They had issues with India in terms of their borders, and the political and the situation in the post Cold War situation in Afghanistan, the Russian invasion, all that indirectly and directly impacted Pakistan. Swat Valley, like Prajna says, is a beautiful place, but people in Swat Valley did not even realize its value. It was kind of neglected as a province in Pakistan. The officials were corrupt. There's corruption. There was problem. Their economy wasn't stable. There were military rule from time to time. There was the presence of the U.S. Army. There was the secret services operating. Taliban was there. On top of that, two natural disasters, poverty, ignorance. It was a breeding ground for lots of injustice, and a justice system that was archaic, delayed, and people just did not have the support, and they were vulnerable group of people. And that was the political climate that she grew up with. And sometimes, Ashni, I sometimes feel that even in Sri Lanka, we may have experienced bits and pieces of that type of environment back in the 80s, late 70s, when there was an insurgence, when there were insurgencies and uprisings in the
Yeah.
north or the south. So it is slightly relatable, and I'm glad daughters like Prajna are in an
Rajna.
environment that is peaceful now.
Mhm. Yeah. So along with that, Ranmali, since you started talking about the Swat Valley, the experience of Malala there, I would like to ask what creates a perfect breeding ground for the type of terror Swat Valley experienced?
Ashni, it's like a formula. If you look at uh, uh, terrorist terror groups, if you look at fundamentalist extremists, they grow well in unstable conditions, unstable political conditions. When there's poverty,
Mhm.
when they are vulnerable, when there is a justice system that keeps on failing them, when there is economic issues, when there's poverty, ignorance, no education, foreign influence. Um, so these are like this is like a breeding ground where any idea is easily forced upon them because people are helpless, so they are waiting for some kind of hope. And the moment you say we are here to liberate you, we are here to give you this, we are here to out of sheer helplessness, people turn towards them, and it's very easy to turn towards it
Yeah.
because the poverty is such that the fathers in these families have either gone to US, Saudi
Mhm.
Arabia, or moved to another country to work, leaving their families vulnerable. So you
Mhm.
have the young sons and daughters. Daughters are oppressed, sons are then taken into these groups, given training, and one
Mhm.
way of gathering crowd is saying, okay, we'll give you food, we'll give you education, join this institute, and to see the institute turns out to be a training facility. So
Mhm.
these type of environments are and on top of that, the misinterpretation of a historical event, uh, uh, a religious point of view, a political point of view, they misinterpret this and get people to believe it, and that becomes a movement then and a breeding ground for this type of terror.
All right. So thank you for sharing that insight as well, Ranmali. Now, before I move on, I would like to encourage the public who are watching with us right now. Send us in your questions and what you want to ask, any inquiries. If you have read Malala or if you are a person who are yet to read I Am Malala, the book, if you want to get any advice and insights, please drop your comments and questions in the comments section in the Facebook Live so that we will take it up at the end at the Q&A session. Now, I would like to just take both of you away from the book a bit, along with the learnings of the book that you all have got as individuals. I would like to ask a question coming into the current world. Okay, so you see countries with female leadership. I'm sure Malala is definitely an icon of female leadership. Now we have countries gone up to the female leadership, but even with the female leadership we still see the countries having gender discriminations and such issues. What's your view about it? Let's start from Prajna. Would you like to start?
Okay, so I'll tell you what I think of female leadership. So when the US elections happened, I was Kamala Harris. So she's a big inspiration for me right now. And there's Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand. And then
Mhm.
there's Malala. There are so many, you can just keep on naming them. They've all been such a big inspiration to us right
Mhm.
now. And you can learn a lot from them.
Mhm.
I don't know much about gender discrimination, but I'll just say one thing that women can do anything. We are all equal. It's humanity. We are equal to each other. So that's what I would like to say.
Great. So that's the learning coming from Prajna. Thank you. Coming into Ranmali, adults' perspective, I would like to get. What do you think about still female leadership being in place? We still see gender discrimination in these countries. What's your view about it?
So first up, Prajna, I think I'm glad you don't know the meaning of the word discrimination because we don't even need it
Yes.
anymore. The moment she said it's everyone's equal, we're talking about humanity, you just wiped out that negative word, and I'm glad you gave that answer. Going back to Ashni's question about leadership at the top level, we have great leaders right now, starting from Kamala Harris to Jacinda Ardern, and as soon as they were elected, South Asia stood up to say that we had leaders, female leaders, way before that.
Yeah.
Uh, Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh, we stand out there, and we are very proud of our female leaders, prime ministers, and presidents.
Mhm.
But like you said, the question is, how is it that it hasn't cascaded? How is it that we don't see that representation now in parliament? So for
Mhm.
me, the question is, what message did they give daughters during that time? Did you tell daughters, a middle class family daughter, you can be me one day? Did you tell a migrant worker's daughter, you can be this one day? So maybe down the line we forgot to give that message. If you look at the families and the circumstances they got into power, it's slightly different. It's good to question where they were and where we are at this point. Maybe being a South Asian country, they had other issues to deal with, unstable economy,
Yeah.
probably civil wars at that point. So this may have been an issue that they felt, okay, we can't be dealing with this right now. There are other main issues. Yes, there's gender discrimination, but poverty is a bigger issue. Yes, there's gender discrimination, but civil unrest is a bigger issue. Maybe the political climate was not like that at that point. There wasn't social media. We didn't see them on stories. We didn't see them on Facebook. We didn't see them giving speeches. So maybe those things were missing at that point. But I really, really feel that the message should cascade to a Prajna in Colombo, to a girl in Jaffna, to a girl in Batticaloa, to a girl in Gaul. Uh, Not only girls, but also to sons and daughters equally, that they can be leaders. And when they are leaders, uh, look at humanity as opposed to genders or ethnicities or races or caste or creed for
Yeah.
that matter.
Mhm. I think if we start to talk about this gender disparities, I think we can go on for days because we can literally have a debate on this. Because even as us as Sri Lankans, we can't really say we have done a good job as well. Because even we had the first female prime minister coming down. What have you really done? Just like you said, Ranvi, have you told the daughters? Have you told the daughters of Sri Lanka this is what you need to look at? No, but still we see, right, when you go inside into the country, you still see parents encouraging girls to go in the said formula which has been taken through years, right? So this is what Malala broke in her capacity. So what we need to encourage is the coming generation, the daughters of the world, to take their stance and go forward. I think this is a topic that we can go on and on about, but since let's just come back to the objective of today about talking about getting the elders, getting the adults and the juniors perspective and opinions about I Am Malala, the book. So coming into the final segment today, I would like to, before I ask you all about the message that you all want to give out, I first want to know, how has this impacted your life? How has this book, I Am Malala, what have you taken from this book into your life? Prajna?
So I've taken a lot from this book. I've taken that you should be brave no matter what, and that no one can do anything to you if you have courage in yourself. Those are the two main things I took away from this book from Malala, because she was really brave throughout her life and still is, and she has so much courage in her heart, and that's what's keeping her going.
All right. Ranmali, what have you taken out of this book?
One, on a personal note, it's identifying your purpose in life, going back to the reason why I read the book. And we all have a purpose in life, and identify that you know your path. The other important thing, it's actually a question that came to my mind. Um, do you think there were Malalas in Sri Lanka? Are there Malalas right now in Sri Lanka? Are they heard? Are we silencing them? What are we doing? There must be, and are we grooming more Malalas in this country? That's another question that sort of made me, another takeaway. So if you do see someone fighting for a cause, if they're fighting for the right thing, what do we do? Do we support her? Do we promote? What do we do? So there are a couple of things like that that sort of as key takeaways. And as Prajna said, when you know what you want in life, there is courage in your heart to take you forward.
All right. So I would like to take a question that has actually come in from the public asking about what did actually make you all choose this book, right? So coming into Prajna, what I heard is this was a book brought to you by your grandmother.
Yeah, it was a book brought by my grandmother because I'd heard about Malala, and one day me and my grandma went to the bookstore and I was searching for that book a lot, and we couldn't find it. And then after a few weeks, she got me that book, and I read it, and I was really happy. So that's how I chose this book, because I was really inspired. I just read a little bit about her because I heard of her from somewhere, and I just wanted to know more. And then while I was reading, I saw that there was a book on on her, and there is a movie as well, a documentary. So I'm looking forward to seeing that, but I can't find it anywhere. But I'm glad that I got to read the book, and thanks to my grandmother for getting it for me.
And I should let you know, your grandmother is actually watching us live right now. I'm sure she is proud to see you. Another Malala, and we have another Prajna. Probably you can write, I am Prajna, right? So just like I said before,
Absolutely, yes.
yeah, just like you said that you wish you could be brave like Malala, I'm telling you, there are thousands and millions of girls who would watch you and be like, at 12, if I was able to speak in front of in front of a camera and in front of an audience and encourage, I'm sure you are being a brave girl today, inspiring a lot more people.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Ranmali, what did make you choose this book?
Interesting, because with my clicker friends, we have this habit of exchanging books. So it was starting from Michelle Obama's book, and then there was Think Like a Monk and a couple of other books. So this came to me from my business partner Fazla. So it was like kind of a coincidence that I happened to read the book, and then pick a book, decided to put the two of us together and come up with and see, the book came out some time back and I hadn't read it anyway, so it was nice to borrow the book and read it.
All right. So thank you for sharing your insights. Now I would like to come into the final segment of the statements that are stated in the world. I would like to take a small, I would not call it a debate, but I would just call it to take different aspects, because here what we're going to talk about is the adult aspect as also as well as the juniors aspect. So now there's a statement where we say leaders. Okay, if I'll just ask you a question: are leaders born or nurtured? Are leaders born or nurtured? Prajna?
In Malala's case, according to me, I think it's both. because she was born and she was nurtured by her father and the environment she grew in. So I think it was both, but to stand by one, I think she was nurtured.
Okay. If you take it in a general aspect to everybody, how would you see it?
I would say it because when she was growing, her father really, with the surroundings and all what was going around in her life, she was nurtured by her father and so many other people. And that's how she became a great leader to what she is now. So, yeah, I think she is nurtured.
All right. So, according to you, who are you? Are you a born leader or a nurtured leader?
I still don't know what to say to that question.
You know you're a leader, right?
I don't know because
We know it. That's why you're here.
You are the chairperson of the junior office club. That makes you a leader, Prajna.
That also
yeah,
makes you a leader with a title, but also you're a leader without titles as well.
I don't know who I am to judge myself. So that's what I don't know if I'm a leader, if I was born or nurtured with this. I don't know.
All right, let's give you more time in life to figure that out, and you will come back. I'm sure you will come back in very strong. So, coming into Ranvali, are leaders born or nurtured? Your
I
aspect.
think I'll have to agree with Prajna as well. In her blood, being born in Swat Valley and being part of that tribe or a group of people called Pashtuns. Prajna, did I get that name right?
Yeah, Pashtun.
Yeah.
That's how I call
Pashtun.
it, but I don't know
Okay.
how.
So they historically been very strong people, a group of maybe a clan perhaps, and also comes that leadership qualities that her father demonstrates. So you see that in her blood, in her genes, she was sort of groomed to be this person, but throughout her childhood, the experiences and the teachings of the father sort of nurtured her, and I would say situational as well. One particular situation, and then she took leadership. Then she took the torch from there. So it's for me a combination of being born a leader, nurtured, and situational as well. Because in that particular situation, when she was shot, she could have chosen to be silent, but she didn't.
Yeah.
So I would say it's like Prajna said, it's more of nurturing, but definitely she did have uh, leadership running in her blood.
All right. And moving into the next part of the conversation, I would like to say now Malala is a very good example to say that age is not a barrier for leadership, right? But what is your perspective? Because no matter how we keep on inspiring the world, no matter how many people come and talk about it, we have this barrier in all parts of the world. What is your view about it, and how do you think we as a world or we as individuals look at it where age is not a barrier? Prajna?
I think this flip side proves it because we both have different aspects in
Well said.
everything. Because what Auntie Ranvali says, I've just learned from her right now because I never took the time to understand that as much as she did. So she has taught me many things. So I've learned so many aspects of the book now. And I don't think age is a barrier for reading because anyone can read at any time. You just need to love it. That's what I would say. And like Greta Thunberg, there are so many young kids who are
Leaders.
fighting for, like, who are leaders and fighting for so many things. Um, And there are also adults like Kamala Harris, Jacinda Ardern, Malala now. And yeah, so I don't think age is a barrier for anything.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think just like you said, very well said, how flip side this webinar series proves it all wrong, because we communicate that age is not a barrier, where we have brought two individuals from two generations to talk about one subject. And as the viewers, you can see how the conversation went on, the aspects of an adult and aspects of a junior. So this is a great platform to prove it, and this is actually what we have to encourage the world to do, to create many of such platforms where we actually hear the opinions of the youngers and also the elders and put into one place to go forward. Along with that, Ranmali, is age a barrier to become a leader?
Theoretically, no, it's not a barrier, but you can make it a barrier. At the same time, like from taking something Prajna said, the leadership, the modern day leadership is way more humble.
Mhm.
Prajna, if she doesn't know, she'll say, I'm sorry, I don't know. This is what I understood. I learned a lot. So, but leadership as we grow older is egoistic, is
Yeah,
dominant, doesn't know how to collaborate. You've seen it all. You've seen, even if you're lost an election, you don't even step down, that type
yeah,
of, right? You don't see it in young leaders today. They collaborate more. They're more progressive. They believe in diversity. So this leadership, the young leadership that I see, it's the great mindset. And I think there's a comment from Udara here. Great mindset, and that is exactly what it is. And honestly, there is no barrier because in a speech again Malala made when she was handed over the honorary citizenship in Canada. She said, you don't have to be as old as the very young Prime Minister Trudeau to be a leader. Those were her words. And there's a lot for us to learn from the younger generation of leaders. So if you were to say there's no barrier, yes, there's no barrier, but I would say look at young leaders now, how they influence people, how they use social media, how they collaborate. There's a
yeah.
lot for us to learn.
So thank you so much. And to Pradna also, I would like to say you are a leader, because when I just went back in time to when I was a 12-year-old, I wouldn't have done this, what you're doing today. I can't imagine me doing what you're doing today. So you've definitely done a lot, and you are a brave girl. So with that, we have actually come to the end of today's flip side uh, episode. But before we end, I would like to get a few thoughts from both of you as a closure. What is your view, and what would you like to tell the audience or watching us today? Prajna?
I would like to tell the audience to be brave in whatever they do
Mhm.
and to have courage in their heart, because that's what I mainly learned from this book, and I've learned it from so many leaders
Mhm.
as well. So those are the two main things I would say: have courage in your heart and be brave.
Thank you so much. Ranmali?
Um, so I have actually two messages. One is based on what Malala said when she was invited for Ellen's show. She said, "My father didn't clip my wings." So to mothers and fathers out there, if your daughters and sons show a certain purpose in life, they have a passion for it.
Mhm.
Don't clip their wings. Do not
Yeah,
put your limiting beliefs and stop them. They were born to be complete human beings. They are not. They are more than what you think they are, and inspire them to take that light and go forward. And as Prajna says, with courage and with a lot of love. And to sons and daughters of this country, believe in yourself. Believe that you are all leaders and you have a purpose in life. You are on this earth for a purpose. Find that purpose and you would be a gem for this country.
Thank you so much. And with that, I would like to first of all thank you both for joining this conversation to make it a very, I'm sure this was a very insightful and an inspiring conversation. And this was a different experience to me as well to moderate two different generations. And it is very interesting. I'm sure it was interesting to the ones who were watching us as well. So thank you so much, Prajna. And thank you so much, Ranmali, for joining and sharing your
You're
insights today
welcome.
about.
You're
So to
welcome so much for having us here.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you,
and we shall see
Ashni.
you soon growing up. All right. So with that, we will have come to the end of today's session, and this is what Pick a Book, the flip side webinar series is all about: bringing perspectives from an adult and a junior to one platform and share their insights for the betterment of the world and for the betterment of everyone who is watching out there. So to tell you a bit about Pick a Book again, Pick a Book encourages the reading habit by getting all participants to select a book, read and research on it thoroughly, and present a summary, which also helps to hone his or her public speaking, communication, and presentation skills, which you saw today of Prajna and Ranmali as well. It's not just about reading the book, but sharing it with everyone. It's the communication styles which are being developed and also the presentation skills. So by doing this, Pick a Book not only inculcates the habit of reading, but also helps to impart a wealth of knowledge, which you saw from your eyes today. And today, to give you a summary, we were in discussion with Prajna Hariharan and Ranmali Vikramasinghe about the book I Am Malala, the girl who stood up for education and was shot by Taliban. The book was written by Christina Lamb and Malala Yousafzai. So if you're interested, if you haven't read this book yet, you can purchase the book and read it and get more insights about it. And if you are willing to come and read, you can join the Pick a Book community. And just like them, you can be a part of this community to spread the word across. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Ashin Suni Veerasinghe and I was the moderator for today. We shall see you soon with another episode of the Flip Side webinar series. Good night.